Had a chance to listen today to Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator of the Colts, talk about his defense and talk about the cornerbacks, talk about the pass rush. Tony Brown, why was he trusted to be that this past Sunday against the Saints? DJ Baker, why wasn't he in? Amir Speed, how close is he? He knows that the cornerback position is one where they got to either coach guys up or get new guys. You can't play that level of cornerback and hope to stop anybody. And Gus knows that. And if you're going to get to the quarterback, can you do it with 4 with this defense? Does the personnel exist to go put meaningful pressure on the quarterback with just 4 guys? Gus Bradley talking today, you got the idea that, you know what, let's throw some stuff at the wall and let's see what sticks. That was kind of the decision that was made about Tony Brown over DJ Baker last week.
Like we had DJ out there, gave him a couple of opportunities. Tony also has played corner for us, and he went through practice, and it was, we looked at both of them through the week of practice, and we just felt like, well, it's, we don't know exactly how Tony would play. We kind of have a pretty good idea, DJ, what he brings. And, Tony's, got some good speed. He understands the package real well. So it was a little bit of, let's see what we have here in him. And, basing off of practice from last week.
Chat.
Yes, I remember we talked maybe off-season or training camp how everyone knew there were going to be growing pains with the young receiver or cornerbacks room, but also it seemed like no one was really sure what you were going to get from the pass rush, and it's been sort of hit and miss. Isn't that just a coordinator's nightmare when you don't get both working in concert? Right.
I do think that, I think in the course of history, it's not like we're a 40% blitz team on first and second down, but I looking at our stats and stuff now, some of the pressures have been versus run, but I know like even last week, there were 20-some blitzes called, so we are trying to apply more pressure. Now, some of those pressures might have been during hit on a run, and some of them, we had a game plan to where certain formations were automatic pressures. So, we have that in to try to generate pressures. We're trying to find a way. You see Buck now is playing a little bit of nose, not just 3. We're keeping them, at different situations, putting them inside just to kind of shore up that a little bit with the injuries that we had with Grove and Eric Johnson. So, we're trying to get guys isolated. I think that Sampson, and Quiddy are both playing extremely hard, but you're right. We just need to find a way to generate some pressure.
And not to put you in a corner, but I mean, you blitz because you're not getting there with 4. I mean, is that too simple?
Yeah, I think, there's sometimes you have some run blitzes, Chappie, and there's some are pass blitzes. I think that's, I think with specifically with a guy like Derek Carr, if he sits back there and has a lot of time, it turns into 7-on-7. And, I think that was at the end, the last call, where they threw the deep ball. It was like 3rd and 11, we want this to turn into 7-on-7 where he can sit back there, or, do we bring pressure? And, our decision was to bring pressure, so he wouldn't sit back there. But, I think you pick and choose your times, and depending on who the quarterback is.
Thanks, Gus.
James.
Gus, could you feel that the Saints were sort of picking on Tony Brown and having a lot of success on him? And then secondly, how hard is it to maybe change what you're doing mid-game, midstream, when like with the thought process of, hey, do we send more help over the top? Do we put somebody else in? Like, what are those discussions like in game?
Sure. Well, I think, especially I will say this for one play to support Tony, the deep post ball, the deep post that was caught early, that was not Tony Brown. I know he was running with the post all by himself, but he should have, based on the read, had free safety play on that. So
yeah, Blackman, Julian was like, yeah, that was miscommunication. He said that.
Yeah, but with Rodney should have been on the post, and Tony, actually you can see him kind of hesitate based on his read. And so it appeared like, oh, that's Tony Brown, when really Tony did what he was supposed to. And I know there's been some questions about, did you think about making a change right then? Well, with that information, that wasn't Tony. It appeared like him. So, some of those things happen later on too. So.
Joel?
Gus, how are your safeties playing? How Rodney specifically? How do you feel like he's playing so far this year?
I think Julian's playing very well for us. We are putting him around the ball a lot. I think there's some, I see him being more physical than he was last year. So we're very pleased with Julian. I think Rodney, we just got to keep pushing him. I think he's extremely sharp, extremely talented back there at the free position. You have to fight boredom a little bit. And I think that, the consistency of his play, he's playing good, but I think there's a higher level that he can play at.
Nate?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, you mentioned that Nick Cross is a guy that maybe you need to give a few snaps to just to sort of, develop him and show him that there's some reward to this. Is this maybe a time to consider doing that just with some of the injuries and absences, or is
Right.
it take a different injury?
I think that we constantly look at, Nick has been kind of a utility guy for us. I mean, last week with Tony Brown and the situation, we need to get him more reps at nickel in case something happened to Kenny. He got some strong safety reps. So, he's caught in a little bit of that bind as far as practice reps, but I think, the group always knows there's competition, and you have to put it on tape and consistently, who are you? And if you're not consistently putting it out there, then we got to look at getting the best guys out there. So Nick is doing some good things. And, right now it's just a matter of him playing some other positions for us where it's hard for him to get a lot of reps at free safety.
And just to follow up on that, I guess, how do you get to a point with him where you can really know what he can do when you are kind of splitting the reps up and it's practice reps, not game reps? Like, at what point do you know fully what he is?
Right. Well, I think if it's not, the level of play isn't what we expect back there, then you'll see him get his opportunity. That's, I think, with everybody, you have competition always, but OTA's training camp, I think those guys have stood out to show, all right, there are guys, and then they got to just play well each game. And I think they all realize if they don't put consistent play out there, there's always a chance someone could take their job. And Nick is in that mode right now where he's competing like crazy. And if that opportunity presents himself, he's up for the challenge.
Raven?
Frank Reich is no longer calling plays for the Panthers this season, but I'm sure he still has a lot of offensive influence down there. And you got to work with him so closely this past season. So how beneficial is that to go up against this offense that you know pretty well?
Yeah, I think they're doing a really good job. I mean, I'm a little bit late because with that young quarterback, I know they haven't won a lot of games, but you look at games, I mean, it's, Minnesota, they're ahead, and there was a sack caused fumble, and, but their quarterback is playing really well. And you can definitely see how they're managing it. You can tell he must be extremely intelligent. He makes checks at the line of scrimmage, gets him in and out of calls. They made it to where he knows where to go with the ball. I think they're doing a really good job with them. So I think there's some of the things that we've seen maybe in training camp, but I think they've done some other things that maybe fit his skill set.
And then going up against a rookie quarterback, I know that, it's midway through the season and he still had his growing pains, but for a defense, do you kind of look forward to those opportunities to kind of confuse him and kind of disrupt his momentum early on?
Yeah, I think that you try to learn more and more about him. Hey, how is he under pressure? I know what one stat was, I think something like in 0 pressures, he's thrown 6 touchdowns or something. There's things like that you pick up on him and say, but he does do a good job picking up pressures. He's make sure that they're not in a bad play. He has been pressured, but I think we just got to, change it up some and make sure that we don't give him a lot of open windows to where, again, I mean, everybody, he's very talented. Now, I think that this, he's a type of quarterback that you're going to see really get better. And that's what we've seen on tape. Each game, he's gotten better and better and more comfortable.
Hey, Gus, how much has the loss of Grover Stewart impacted the defense in general and more specifically the pass rush?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. But, you know, I'm careful to say it because I surely don't want to come across an excuse. You know, he's a very talented individual that brought a lot to our defense. But with that being said, you know, that's our job to adjust and, you know, place guys where they need to be to still continue to play at a high level. And, you know, I think that's what was discouraging this past week. I think there were some things like, for example, with Hill in the backfield, you know, when he was the quarterback, we had a game plan for that. We had an idea, you know, in the different personnel groupings, how they could get to it. It was a game plan designed to, you know, take care of the situations, the runs and the passes, but we didn't execute it. And as I look back on film, it wasn't so much a player. It was more, there was maybe a little bit of a misunderstanding exactly how we're going to fit that up. And that's more on me. So the plan was there. The understanding we thought was there, but it just wasn't executed, but more so based on just some, you know, they did come out with some unscouted looks. So the ability to adjust to that. So, you know, I think overall, you know, guys, you know, we just got to make sure we put our guys in position to make plays, and we got to play with more consistency, and we just got to execute the call. We got to execute the call and not give up so many explosive plays. That's what's a little bit unusual, I think, with our style of defense is the number of explosive plays that we gave up.
JJ?
Hey, Gus, Zaire's got over 100 tackles halfway through the season. When you kind of parse through those, how many of those were like high quality, like, hey, we needed a play here tackles?
Did you say Zaire, JJ?
Yeah, Zaire, yep.
Yeah, he is. I think with Zaire is he is a playmaker now. And what we got to make sure is that, you know, he does his job, makes plays. He is making plays all over the place on the field. And I think there was one we had a little bust in the coverage with the back went to the flat and he ran across the field and made the play. And, you know, you're seeing plays like that. He is playing with tremendous effort right now and playmaking ability. So there, I think, JJ, to answer your question, yes, there is a lot of big plays, single tackles, solo tackles that he's making. And when he does hit, it's explosive. You know, he had one on a check down in the back that was extremely explosive.
Two more, Kevin?
Gus, in a week like this, knowing that obviously you and Frank, you know each other pretty well and saw each other up close, do you change anything? Do you just kind of stick to what you do, or how much is that on your mind when you're getting ready to face him?
Well, I think that, yeah, you're right. I think he probably has a pretty good idea who we are. I think that has changed some since we were together. He'd probably say, just like I said before, boy, it looks like they're bringing more pressure. You know, there's probably things like that he watches tape and sees. But, you know, I think right now this game, I mean, they're very talented I say that they are talented at the quarterback spot. Thielen's an issue. They can just methodically move the ball down the field and take their shots. And if you can't disrupt them or get them in the long yardage situations, they're very effective. And so we have to come up. And now, after saying that, this game is about us and us getting back right, you know, and executing calls and playing the call, executing and getting a rush with 4-man rush. And when we have to pressure, execute the pressure.
Last one, Joel?
I know Amir Speed hasn't been here very long. What have you guys seen from him? Is he a possibility to factor in?
Right. You know what? It's been like 4 days. So he's tall, he's long, he can run. You know, we're trying to get him caught up. We've had extra meetings with him. We have a developmental period in practice where he got some reps last week. So we're trying to get him caught up as fast as possible.
So that's Gus Bradley. And really, I feel kind of sorry for Gus Bradley because I don't think that there's a solution to the problems that he faces. This is a defense that's pretty simple in its structure, and it requires really good execution to be successful. They're not getting good execution. The structure is not sound for the talent that's available. And that means what? That means that you're going to give up an average of 38 points a game the last 3 games. and you've either got to change the scheme or change the players, because this combination of players and scheme just frankly doesn't work. And if you don't have Juju Brents coming back from his injury, if you don't have Grover Stewart as a defensive tackle on this team, and you don't for the next 2 games, you got real problems. And by the time you get those guys back, the hay's going to be in the barn, and this season's going to be, for all intents and purposes, over. Right now, you got to try to win a game, granted, against the worst team in the NFL. But you know what? It's the worst team in the NFL, as Gus Bradley alluded to and questioners alluded to, that has a really good idea about how this defense operates. Frank Reich was here with Gus Bradley. He knows Gus Bradley. He knows this personnel. This could be a matchup nightmare for the Colts.